Welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for Rod's Rant of the Day. Let's hear from Shadeur Sanders before we get into some of this Sark sound here. Shadeur Sanders spoke on, I guess, being an underdog. And I don't know how Shadeur Sanders is an underdog right now, but he talked about how dealing with disrespect and people counting him out his entire football career. And then, either knowingly or unknowingly, he took a shot at big boy football in the state of Texas. Here is Shadeur Sanders, the starting quarterback at the University of Colorado, also the son, of course, of Hall of Famer Deion Sanders.
I came from a private school, so at the end of the day, I dealt with a lot of negativity, a lot of hate, a lot of everything I done dealt with already year after year. I came from a small private school. All the other kids was going big, Power Five, and they went to big 6A Texas 6A schools and stuff. I don't see those same kids around. I don't see them excelling in their programs or whatever they're doing. So I always been against the odds, like in different ways.
Mm. Okay, so people people got upset because he said, I don't see those guys around. I don't see the other 6A Texas high school players, playing at the highest levels. And he's mistaken about that. He's right and he's wrong. He's wrong because there are plenty of great players that came from 6A Texas high school football programs that are competing at the highest levels. You can go through it, right? Quinn Ewers just played in the college football playoff. Jalen Miro just did too. Those guys, I believe, were ranked in the same. Go look at the quarterback class. They were right in the same category with Shadeur Sanders, right? They came out around the same time. Those guys played 6A high school football. Now, I will say that he was not ranked really high. You go look at the quarterbacks that were ranked ahead of him in Texas at the time. I'm not a recruiting Nick or an analyst, but I mean, Quinn Ewers was probably the top, Jalen Miro, but then guys like Garrett Nussmeyer and Preston Stone and Sawyer Robertson and Baron Martin. Like, he was not a highly rated or highly recruited guy. He even talks about how he went to one of his, and this is what I think is kind of at the heart of it. And there have been 6 NFL first team All Pros who I think went to 6A Texas high schools that per CBS, they threw that out there too. So plenty of great players come out of 6A programs that have represented, played in the college football playoff, and are still representing. But this shows me, like a lot of great athletes, and Shadeur Sanders is a really good quarterback. I mean, he's going to be a first round pick, and there's a chance he could end up being the top quarterback drafted. I mean, he's got that kind of ability. He's putting together that kind of resume. He's got some things to work on, but that's a different discussion. Like a lot of great athletes, they have to sharpen the chip on their shoulder. They, because some of them, like guys like MJ, is part of this too, right? We talked about this with Tom Brady and how it's annoying with guys like Tom Brady, how psychologically they need to flip the script and turn themselves into an underdog,
Yeah.
even though not actually an underdog. And it's like, MJ, why is MJ still trying to be an underdog in his Hall of Fame speech? Yeah, I was counted out, and it's like, no, you're a great athlete. You matured a little later than some of your peers, but you end up being one of the best athletes on the planet. And you made a really good case for Tom Brady, and he still plays the underdog card. You're like, dude, he went to Michigan. It's like,
Yeah,
like
he
went to
he started
North.
at Michigan at points.
Yeah, it wasn't at North Texas or anything. Like, he was drafted. Yeah, nothing against North Texas, but you get my point. There are levels to this. And that's a good point. But Shadeur Sanders, he's got a good case for it because he started at HBCU, which I think he's more following his dad. I'm sure he probably could have gotten an offer to play somewhere else if he wanted to, but he played in HBCU, which is a lower level of competitive football in college, and he believes he wasn't highly recruited. Remember, he throws out the story about, I believe it is Kendall Browse, actually, that was a camp he went to as a kid, and Kendall Browse didn't show him a lot of love, didn't give him a lot of attention, just just kind of poo-pooed him at a camp once, and didn't show him the love that he thought he deserved. And that was motivation in the TCU game, right? That they wanted to show Kendall Browse what he missed out on. And that's an example of these great athletes having to psychologically manufacture slights and moments of disrespect to keep that chip on their shoulder razor sharp, to grind it. I call it motivational currency. Players and great players. MJ did it. Tom Brady does it. And they do it by the ability. Baker Mayfield was really good at doing it because he came from an underdog mentality. But once they get to the top of the mountain and and Shadeur Sanders will be a Heisman candidate. So once they get to that top of the mountain, they actually do need to manufacture these slights because they're getting way more praise than they've ever gotten before. And usually they use the disrespect, they use the slights against them, they use any type of negative narrative against them. They internalize it and use it as motivation. And I think Shadeur Sanders right now, because he's not the top of the mountain, but he's as high as he's ever been. And right now he's getting a lot of praise. And some tells me Deion Sanders, this is Deion talking to him right before he goes up there. Man, man, they disrespecting you out there. You look at all your peers, where you came from. So I think it's brilliant, by the way, because I think all athletes do it, and there are examples of it all throughout sports, everywhere. And this is another example of it. To me, that's what it's about, not necessarily about the disrespectful tone or the shot that he unknowingly or knowingly took at 6A high school football.
No, it is. It's the funny part about it is to be like, they haven't done anything. Like, dude, you were 4-8.
Yes.
You can't say they haven't done anything and you were 4-8. And I get you had a good start of the season, but you were 4-8. And there's other issues, but you could go 4-8 again this season. Good. You can't pretend like you have achieved things because your dad achieved things. You have done a lot of things, but you're also not in a camp above where you're at right now. You're a good college football player. You have a lot of potential, but you also have drawbacks. It's clearly what it is. It's the same. The story I always use was Shaq finally admitted to it. Shaq claimed that David Robinson did not give him an autograph when he was in high school in San Antonio, and that's why he had to go play David Robinson is so hard. And later on admitted that was a completely made-up thing, but David Robinson was too nice, and he had to figure out a way to hate him. And so, and so that was what he found to do. And it's annoying because people keep giving him platforms to walk out on and go, here's a blatant lie that I have to tell myself to try and be a better football player. But I get what it is. You're 100% right in what it is. It's just, as somebody who watched it, I just have to turn away and just go, I don't care. Say whatever you want to say. We understand. It's hard to say, well, I grew up being able to talk to any single athlete I ever wanted to in my entire life. Tom Brady's personally mentored me. But really, it's been hard on me because my family had so much money that I had to go to private school. I wasn't able to go to public school, guys. I wasn't able to. And then for me, I couldn't get recruited because I told everyone I was playing for my dad, so no one wasted their time on me. My life has just been so hard, one thing after another, that it's frustrating when people try and show when no matter whatever anybody else accomplishes, they have to go, no, but mine was just so much harder. And this is it's not just Shadeur Sanders. It is a lot of people in life who have this mindset.
Yeah.
And
but like I said, I think athletes, they almost need it to a certain extent. So you don't become complacent and you don't, become, you don't get satisfied. And for him, like you said, you just named all the advantages he's had, right? He's had a lot of advantages in his life, and that's great. He's been a blessed young man, and he's taken advantage of them. He's maximized those opportunities. But psychologically, and I remember Bernard Hopkins talked about this with boxing, and he started talking about like Money Mayweather and how everybody who basically the last maybe 10 to 15 fights that Money Mayweather's had, it's the biggest payday of his opponent's career ever. And they make sure psychologically they get that check. They get it in their account. They want it in there before they fight. All right. Want to get it. Want to get payday before so they can look at that account and get satisfied. Like, man, I finally got my big payday, baby. Because fighters, a lot of them were literally fighting for their life. They were fighting for meals. They come from poverty. A lot of them. They don't come from affluent households, the upper middle class. And once they get their big payday, a lot of fighters are like, well, this is what I was fighting for. I was fighting so I could change the generational path of my family and have wealth forever. I got it. And you go out there and you still think you got that edge against Money Mayweather, but you actually don't. You don't, because you're a little bit satisfied. So, but he's great because he has that ability to conjure up the ability to always be the underdog, and he can get himself motivated even with the money. He's not satisfied, he's not complacent, but he knows most of his opponents are. So I think for an athlete, I think it's critical you have that. Like you said, it's almost a superpower. It's like George Costanza said, it's not a lie if you believe it. They like remember Michael Jordan on the Last Dance. They said, was it George Carl that he had the story about the dinner about that he didn't shake his hand at dinner, or he didn't speak to him at dinner.
Yeah,
was
something
that
like
George
that.
Carl? And then George Carl was like, that never happened. I don't know what he's talking about. Of course I would have said, hey to MJ,
Yeah.
but just like Shaq, hey, you made up that story, and it's like I said, it's almost George Costanza-ish, where it's not a lie if you believe it, but they have to do it to motivate themselves.
But there's a flip of that, which is we saw with Baker Mayfield, which is that can get out of hand at points.
Yes, it can.
And you can see the ugly side of it. And quite frankly, you can be that guy. And if you are not the most gifted, most athletic, if you don't have all those aspects, you're just a jerk. It doesn't make you great. So there's no inherent ability of being a jerk makes you great. But it can make, if you're already really, really good, it can help take you that next level.
You're that's so true. If you're not an elite athlete, it's like Michael Jordan would have just been an a-hole if he wasn't a great, all-time great basketball player. Okay, let's get to some Sark audio here before we get out of here and get to what the fact, what the stats. He was asked about Anthony Hill specifically, because Anthony Hill is a movable chess piece. He was on the edge last year. He's, I think, middle linebacker is where he's listed at, but they want to move him around. But he was asked specifically, what is the plan for Anthony Hill? Here is what Steve Sarkisian had to say.
I think the one thing that Anthony provides is versatility. Even as a true freshman, we moved him around a fair amount last year, with what he was doing at off the ball linebacker, what he was doing coming off the edge rushing, what he was able to do for us on special teams. But he's wired right for sure. He's the greatest kid in the world off the field. I mean, he's a good student. I can talk to him. He can relay messages. He's a really good leader. When he gets between the white lines, I mean, he's tough. I mean, he plays hard. He takes it. He plays, as I always say, through the echo of the whistle, and that's what you want out of a linebacker, right? You want him with that edge, and so I do value that from him, and I think that that's going to serve us well as a guy who's going to be one of the leaders of our defense. That's his style of play. Where he actually finds his home, we'll see. I just know that he can do multiple things, and so I'd hate to pigeonhole him into one thing. It's probably safe to say if we were playing tomorrow, he would play middle linebacker for us, but we're not playing tomorrow. And so we're going to try to put the best 11 guys out there and making sure that we're putting him in position to make the plays that he can make. He is definitely an impactful player that way.
I've talked a lot about versatility being intentional for Sark in terms of building the roster with versatile athletes that give you solutions to problems that are presented. He just brought up the versatility of Anthony Hill. Listen to what he talks about when he's asked about the defensive back depth and what he mentions as their plan for the defensive back development. Here's Steve Sarkisian.
I feel pretty good. We're like I said, we have some pretty good versatility in the back end. I know we probably label like Jade and Jalen Gilbo and Jordan Austin as stars, but we're rolling those guys at multiple positions. We're rolling safeties at stars. And so we've got really good depth, obviously with Brooks and Gavin Holmes, kind of coming back with Manny has been helpful. But there's an influx of some young players that are getting some good opportunities right now and seeing some growth in them and what they can be with Wardell Max or, Kobe Blacks, those guys. So I feel really good about the depth. We're gonna have to harness it a little bit here at some point down in August of, okay, what's this rotation going to look like when we get there? But for right now, they're all playing. They're all looking pretty good.
All right. Says he's cross-training those guys. I told you that versatility is where they're going. And here's another cut, the last one before we go to break here, him discussing Andrew Makuba and what he brings to the table. And there seems to be a theme here.
The guy who I just talked to after practice, I love the way he's practicing right now is Andrew Makuba. I think he's you feel his experience as a player. You feel him having the ability to play multiple positions. And I love the intent that which he practices with. He's He's aggressive. He's tough, but yet he knows how to practice. He doesn't go to the ground. He knows how to do those things. And I hope he serves as a really good benchmark for some of the other guys on how to do it. I think he's definitely shown up that way and been impressed with that.
All right. So, like I said, there's a theme. I told you guys months ago, versatility is where they're going now with the back seven. They want guys who have a versatile skill set, who the rigidity of their system got them in trouble a lot last year because they have some rigidity, which means you have a lot of rules if your system is rigid. And those, once the offense finds out those rules, I can exploit them. I can exploit your rules. If you have guys who are versatile back there, essentially it offers you more solutions when the offense presents problems trying to engineer and manufacture matchups that are advantageous to them. And that's where they're going. Like I said, I told you guys months ago what's happening now. You're hearing him start saying more and more. Versatility. Guys, versatile. Love that. Versatility. Cross-training guys. That's where they're going with the future of it. And I love it, by the way. It's a throwback. When I was on the 40 acres, that was the theme of the defensive backfield. If you go look at all the DBs who have been drafted, who have been on NFL rosters since 1999, almost 60% of them played multiple positions at Texas or in the NFL. All right, that's good stuff there. And thanks, my man Patrick, for that audio, doing a great job. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats. Got a couple of those to lay on you, and then we'll also get to the big fat poll of the day. I want to get back to that conversation, which is Texas football related. All of that and more on the Top of the Charts Tuesday, right here on the broadcast, featuring my man Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, right back on the horn.